Exciting week for all the smart AI community folks, and really want to welcome you back for episode that I've been really talking a lot about because Edge AI is something that you've heard me talk about because of it solves a lot of our problem with artificial intelligence when it comes to privacy, safety, security of data. And having to discuss this topic has been an eye-opening research for me, and the ability to have other people sort of advocate for these sort of tools has been really amazing to not only just to teach them but to see how they have been able to evolve through the understanding of how hardwares actually work. And uh, so I wanted to really make this episode about the the recent announcement about Edge AI. But before I do that, I kind of want to encapsulate some of the things that are not necessarily just all tech, right? We always talk about, what are the possibility with AI? What's the art of possibility with AI? And how do we take advantage of each of those pieces? So, um, Edge AI, as you are familiar with, you know, which is easily described but really hard to do because of the demand signal wasn't really there. But now that the demand signal is there, and we are able to manufacture these in a massive amount, I think the cat's is out of the bag at this point. There's no excuse not to do AI anymore because if you think about it, that was a main complaint that we had is that the data aren't private, and we cannot use AI very securely, and it's not necessarily something that we should all use because how secure it isn't. Um, so this is what changes the game, right? So if you thought there's other large language models and all these releases that are happening on a weekly basis, hardwares are really difficult to release because they don't go through iterations every week. They go through iteration almost years and years and years, right? This new Edge AI, it's I cannot contain my excitement. Let's just put it that way. But before I jump into the techie, details, let's get into something that I kind of want to bring people back into the review of what we have been talking about in Smart AI community. In Smart AI community, we talk a lot about these need for understanding the data, understanding their implication, and understanding how these data, once they're being used, they could be used for both good and bad. And I was looking for an example to go back to our discussions about deep fake, right? Because as much as we talked about deepfake, which is a societal problem, but I always advocate for the deepfake being a good thing that we cannot let go of with the bad things, right? The deepfake is actually something that we have to enable in order to, utilize artificial intelligence for the purposes of in the edge, right? In the edge means you have limited amount of computation power. So how do you use deepfake to help somebody who's vulnerable and in need, and you have the capability for very low price to deploy a deep fake and enable somebody with those deep fake technology. And of course, we also talked about how deep fake is mislabeled. This is not necessarily how it sounds. What everybody understands to be deep fake could also be an Instagram filter, right? That's also a deep fake. The TikTok filters, they're also deep fake. So there's deep fake CGIs everywhere, AI generated images everywhere. However, deep fake is what everybody's so scared of, but they tend to keep all the other technology from deepfake away from the negative deepfake. But everything is pretty much deepfake, regardless of positive or negative. So let me share my screen here and let's talk about something that I believe will encapsulate what do you need to understand before you need to understand Edge AI, right? But I really want to I really want to talk about something that I ran into with Jamie Foxx's latest stand up. I'm a big Jamie Foxx fan. I've been watching his DVDs in the early 2000s. Just collecting them and just watching them on a daily on a weekly basis because it was just that hilarious. And I'm a big fan. So when I've seen him evolve into this superstar that he is through movies and through music, I really enjoyed watching him become a superstar pretty much, right? But he did the stand up and he talked about this fact that yeah, he could be alive and still be funny, right? So that's what the saying was, like, if I can be funny, I can be alive, because he almost died, right? And for a superstar like him to be able to cry through a stand-up comedy is the most powerful thing I've probably experienced in a very long time. That somebody could be on a stand-up comedy and cry through their storytelling. So, what am I talking about Jamie Foxx for, right? Because one of the experience that he mentioned is that people cannot believe the fact that he's still alive. Because what happened when he went to the hospital, people said, he's actually dead. That's the clone of Jamie Foxx. That's not real Jamie Foxx. So that kind of hints towards the societal understanding of how where we are with technology and how distrustful people is, right? Like very much distance from the technology and very much have this distrust towards the AI. Or any technology that pertains to current level of technology, specifically when it comes to AI. And this is not necessarily just to say, oh, this is an AI problem. Well, here's the AI problem, and here's everybody else that's going to create the problem because of non-alignment between understanding of how technology is capable of doing damage and how AI or any technology is not capable of doing that much damage, right? The damage could happen. The negative and positive will happen. What we have to understand is that there's a limitation. You have to manage that expectation of AI. So we go to talk about CRISPR, right, which enables people to change their DNA settings, right, which has some machine learning components to it, but it's not necessarily all AI. Right, it has to have some human capabilities built into that in order for CRISPR to work. So if you have lots of these cloning technologies like Dolly the sheep from 1990s, they're not necessarily all AI, right? But because of things like deepfake, images that are generated without really having a person there who's, coming to the video completely different, I think it's playing into the societal psyche of understanding what does it mean to be a real person, because that was the premise of the conversation, that he could not convince people enough that he was actually a real person and he was alive and he did not die. But the rumor that circulated because of social media is that they were showing his pictures before and after, and they were saying, well, that's not Jamie Foxx, that's just Jamie Foxx's clone. So I mean, information, however it travels through images, through videos, through text, it becomes very much a top surface conversation because of how it was circulated. So let me continue here. At the end of this clone story that he's experienced, and he talked about it, I think it was just so powerful that no matter what AI can replace, AI can never replace the total human storytelling capability, right? As in, AI can augment us to tell the stories. So Jamie Foxx's ability to tell a story to a live audience and make them laugh while he's crying is a powerful human capability that AI will can mimic but can never replicate, right? Replicate means it cannot never be original about it, right? So this is one of the fields that AI can never do much of a damage to, right? Because this is a human performing on a stage, and that's it. That's where it ends. Like you don't need an AI to do the human performance. Let the human do what they do, which is to be creative, right? So working towards that idea that humans can do what the humans can do best, and let the AI be the silent technology behind the scene, enabling the humans to do more creative things. I think it's a great transitions we're having. However, we have to minimize the amount of the disruptions, amount of the fears and confusions that comes through AI. We really have to really tell the story from our own perspective, right? So our own perspective is that if I'm telling you a story about Robert De Niro, you want to hear Robert De Niro's story. But if I add CGI to it and enable Robert De Niro to tell the story visually, there's not much of a problem with that, right? But the problem is when we start abusing these things, and the story becomes about abusing rather than stories about creativity, right? So deepfake, uh, wherever it is today, once we uh, label it correctly for specific use cases. So for example, in deepfake, if you are using medical deepfake to enable a examiner to diagnose their patient's disease stage, right? Wounds, right? You can use deepfake to figure out what sort of wound that is. Like, is it a bed sore or was that actually a fall, right? These sort of deepfake capabilities is super necessary because they've been developed in the lab, and not by the terminology deepfake. Deepfake is what we, through stories, picked up, right? But the capabilities of deepfake was actually built for the positive things that we can do with deepfake, which is to take a resolution of picture and increase the resolution of that picture for a benefit of the viewers, right? So the storytelling of deepfake caught on fire, but the storytelling of something like storytelling for the human creativity didn't really catch on. And I think this is the time we take advantage of this sort of storytelling, so that way we can have a good understanding of how the AIs are built, how to manage this AI, what to expect from it, how to manage those expectations, and how do we tell better stories through our AI and data. So this is where a team alignment workshop comes in. I think this is a good point to make that uh, because there is such a diverse amount of opinions about this new technology and adaptation of it and the implementation of it, a lot of the organizations are slowing down and thinking, well, if everybody outside of my organization thinks that way, I'm pretty sure I am not the one to take a step forward, right? But one of the things that you can do is actually develop your team's confidence in how it is that you don't have to develop this AI, or you probably just keep your hands, away from this AI, so you don't have to work with it. But you still need a team alignment. Does your team believe the same way? Does your team see this importance in the same perspective as you do? Right. So this team alignment workshop is something that is coming through in the conversation over and over because of we've been here before, right? We've had to go to the cloud evolution. We had to go to the evolution of websites. And all things are changing because of how data is being processed in the cloud and how we are able to resurrect the old technology that we haven't had before, but now we're able to bring it back like blockchain to do more and do it better, faster, and cheaper, right? So this team alignment workshop means that you are able to see eye to eye and say, guys, where are we with this today, and who knows what about it? And if you know data, does somebody else know data security better than data? Does somebody else know infrastructure security better than data security? Does somebody understand encryption better than maybe let's say business process, right? And so we have to really work on each other's strengths and weaknesses to enable each other to contribute and work together as a team. And community of practice is what you get out of it once you're able to identify the strength, right? Community of practice, team alignment workshop through community of practice is a giant leap forward without investing a single penny into buying technology that you don't know how to use, or you don't know how to trust it, or you pretty much don't want to do what a lot of the corporations are experiencing these days, which is that they dug the canal to bring the crocodiles in, right? Because these AIs came in and did some of the damages that they uh, pretty much did not anticipate happening. But as it happened, they're paying the prices for it. And we can talk more about those when we talk about Samsung, Apple, Microsoft, and their stocks devaluating. So we'll talk about that next time. But for this time, let's talk a little bit more about what Jensen Huang released as of a few days ago. D- when it comes to understanding the hardware that you have, there's a data that is traveling back and forth. So when you think about data, we think about a specific pipeline of data, and we forget that the data is everything, right? Even to present the data that you're looking for, there's other data that's pushing that data where it's supposed to be. So there's a data processing capability that needs to happen, and these limitation of data processing within your surrounding area um, allows you to see the data that you need, right? But you don't process data just where you are because you don't have those kind of capability. You have the capability of sending data, but necessarily process this data. So what that, in another word, that means that you have the data use case in front of you, and you have the data to put that data into the motion as far as your capability goes. But what if your data that was at rest was literally where you needed to be, and it was so close to your device that you were able to use the data, put that data into the motion, and have that data be used from where it lies in resting, right? So it's a terminology that we talk about with pickup and drop off scenarios. This pickup and drop off scenarios, further you are from the drop off, more drop offs you have to do in between, right? So that means there's a lot of data at rest, and that means that's the slow data. And when I mean slow data, that means it's slower than a few milliseconds, right? Nanoseconds at one point. So these Orion, Jetson, or Orin Jetson Orin tool will enable just that, right? So what previously was thought that you need internet to have AI, now you can do AI-like capabilities in the middle of the crowded soccer stadium and enable these devices to perform on a level that previously you would have probably needed internet. And the reason you need internet is for these devices, not this device, but other devices to communicate with a processing center that is far off, right? So if you are in a soccer stadium in Italy, maybe the data was being processed somewhere in Africa, right? So if that's the case, you don't get all the things that you would like to see as far as, say, for example, in Iron Man, they talk about Jarvis, right? So how do you enable Jarvis locally? How do you enable that Jarvis that is literally sitting a few inches away from you? And that's important because if you have those kind of capability, and those kind of capabilities are enabled by these sort of tools that is literally in your pocket or hanging on your ceiling and is able to process multiple sets of data or multimodal data as in audio, video, text, even sometimes smell sensors. You are able to enable a lot of the sensors around you to be processed in a single area, and from that it is able to provide a feedback loop, and from that feedback loop you get these silent non-communicating AI that's performing on the background, and you don't necessarily have to do these things manually anymore. And there's lots of these use cases out there, but what will impress you the most is the cost of it, right? It's $249. That's the best part of all the news that I can break today is that look at the price. They have mass produced these things. If it's mass produced, the price can be lowered. But if they didn't mass produce it, this thing should have costed at least $1,500 to $2,000. But because it's $249, that is like the best news I can give to anybody, or at least to myself, because I'm super excited about these edge AI tools. Because we will be able to do all the AIs with privacy, unless somebody can, tap into these tools and steal the data from us, or you have to enable somebody to come and get the data from you. So these will enable what we talked about for whole years now, right? Like I think before even ChatGPT came out, we talked about AI agents, and that's what we were really working towards. But the reason the AI agent did not kick off is because this AI agent would not be able to do things for us in a private area, right? As in like in a private enclosure of a device, private enclosure of a home or a business or office. These devices, if they're not plugged into the internet, can they still perform like an AI, like a Jarvis? Jarvis stands for JARVIS. Jarvis stands for just another really intelligence system, right? So if you think about Jarvis, the reason Jarvis could do what Jarvis could do is that nobody could hack into Jarvis from outside. because Jarvis was closed off. And if the Jarvis like system is enabled today, think about what happens to Alexa, right? So next Alexa you purchase could be that it's 249 plus Alexa, right? Because Alexa will be able to perform things that right now it's far from what Alexa has been able to perform over the last 10 years. Because these sort of tools will enable Alexa to do more in each specific location you put Alexa into, right? Um, uh, that's just a use case that I'm coming up with, but I can tell you about thousands of use case, and I'm looking forward to sharing those use cases with you in case you're interested. Because these use cases would be not just in manufacturing, not just in soccer stadium or busy locations where there's a lot of people movement. These sort of technology will become your next IoT sensors and IoT sensors that you can only imagine what happens to an IoT sensor that is relying on internet. So we have lots to talk about, but if you are interested in these topics, of course, you have tutorials like this one with AI agent, how the AI agents are developed, and you are able to create these AI agents with minimal instructions, step-by-step process. You don't have to be techie. It's a low code, no code solution. But plugging and playing it and understanding how it works and when it works is a great first initiative, and very great initiative that you are actually looking into the AI agents as your future use case. However, there's a lot of those nuances that you have to understand in order to be able to make it interoperable with security in mind. How do you scale it so that way it's financially justifiable? And then how do you sustain it because there's a return on investment, right? So, personal AI agent versus corporate AI agent is two different story. A business AI agent versus a government AI agent is two different story. So really, if you're interested, we are meeting on a bi-weekly basis and sharing this information in great details because mm, SMART community stands for specialist who will advocate for a research and training for the purposes of their career field, for their workforce, or just in general. Like somebody could advocate just for their family because these things are impacting the way we interact within community, within our family, with our kids. How will the next generation of children who will be impacted by this artificial intelligence, and how as an adult can we articulate to them what are the nuances that they need to understand? What are the troubleshooting steps that they have to really be smart with, right? So SMART community, we meet bi-weekly, and we're looking forward to any information we can share and give you a real life answer. So feel free to reach out, comment here, and then looking forward to seeing you on a weekly basis. Thank you.